Title: A Young Guardian's Quest for Sanctuary. In the quiet hours of the morning, when silence enveloped the hospital, the automatic doors slid open with a soft hiss. A girl, small and fragile, walked through the reception area. Her simple clothes and tousled brown hair were unremarkable, but the bundle in her arms captured everyone's attention. Wrapped in a blanket, a tiny life rested against her chest. Her eyes, a mix of fear and courage, silently pleaded for help yet hinted at a dark secret. Nurse Emily, with years of experience, nearly dropped her clipboard at the sight. She approached the girl cautiously, trying to read the situation. Crouching to her level, she spoke in a gentle tone, "Dear, are you okay? Who is in your arms?" The girl didn't respond immediately, holding the bundle closer with trembling hands. Finally, in a whisper so faint it was nearly lost, she said, "They told me to come here. He needs help." Emily inhaled deeply, realizing there was more to this than an unexpected visit. Looking into the girl's eyes, she saw a maturity and sadness that seemed out of place for her age, a testament to a painful journey. Extending her hand with a warm smile, she asked, "What is your name?" The girl hesitated, as if searching for trust in Emily's words, then replied in a faint voice, "Lila." "Very well, Lila," said Emily, trying to keep her voice calm and soothing. "Can we see who you have in your arms?" With a hesitant motion, Lila loosened the blanket, revealing the face of a newborn, sleeping soundly. Emily's surprise was palpable, her heart racing at the realization of what this young girl had endured to get here. "My God, it's a baby," Emily whispered, signaling to Dr. Lucas, who was already approaching, his gaze tense with concern. Dr. Lucas, experienced and attentive, knelt beside Emily, quickly assessing the scene. With a reassuring look, he said, "Lila, it's okay. We are here to help you both. But tell me, where did you come from with this baby?" Lila bit her lip, her eyes welling up, yet she maintained a determined posture. Without breaking her gaze, she answered in a low voice, I can't tell. I just know he depends on me." Emily and Dr. Lucas exchanged a glance, understanding the gravity of their situation. Emily kept her gaze fixed on Lila, feeling the weight of the girl's words. With an expression of empathy and gentleness, she decided not to press further immediately but to ensure that both were safe. "Lila, can I hold the baby so you can rest a bit?" Emily asked, extending her hands in a welcoming manner. Lila hesitated, clutching the baby even tighter as if he were her last anchor in the world. Her eyes were scared but determined. Without taking her eyes off Emily, she murmured, "You're not going to take him away from me, are you? He's all I have." Dr. Lucas, noticing the anguish in Lila's voice, knelt beside her, softening his tone. "Lila, we don't want to take anything from you. We just want to take care of both of you, to make sure you're okay. You are very brave for coming here." With slow steps, Emily guided Lila to a nearby cushioned chair. The hospital was still calm at that hour, the silence wrapping around them like a protective cloak. Emily sat beside Lila and asked softly, "Did you come here by yourself, dear?" Lila nodded, her expression mixing exhaustion with relief. "There was no one to bring me. I did it all by myself. I needed to protect Leo." "Leo," Emily repeated, absorbing the name of the baby. "He's beautiful, Lila. How did he end up in your arms?" Lila looked down, clutching Leo once more against her chest as if those words brought back memories she'd rather not relive. She shrank a little, shielding the baby with her body. "He was alone, just like me, and I promised he wouldn't be without anyone." Lucas and Emily felt a tightening in their chests upon hearing this. It was as if in a few words, Lila revealed a life marked by pain and abandonment. "We will take care of both of you, Lila, and I promise nothing will happen to Leo," Lucas affirmed with a firm look. But we need to make sure you're okay too, all right? Lila nodded slowly, seeming less tense. The weight of being there seemed to lessen as the adults gained her trust. As Emily adjusted Leo in her arms, Lucas discreetly called another young nurse, named Tara, asking her to prepare a private room for Lila and Leo. Carefully, Emily wrapped Leo in an extra blanket, ensuring he was comfortable in Lila's arms. Meanwhile, Nurse Tara returned to inform them that the room was ready. "Come, Lila, let's go to a quieter place. There you can rest, and we will take care of you and Leo," Emily said with a warm smile. Lila slowly stood up, still holding Leo securely in her arms, and followed Emily and Dr. Lucas down the hallway. Their footsteps echoed softly in the almost empty hospital corridors, and Lila whispered comforting words to Leo as if also seeking courage for herself. Upon arriving in the room, Emily helped Lila sit on the bed while Lucas adjusted Leo in a nearby crib. Lila watched every movement as if fearing someone might separate her from the baby at any moment. Lucas sat beside her and said, "Lila, we're going to take care of everything now. You're safe here, but we need to understand more about you and what happened for you both to be here. Can you tell me a little more about where you live?" Lila took a deep breath, looking down at the floor as if gathering strength to open that door of memories. After a long silence, she replied in a trembling voice, "My mom. She doesn't know I came. She doesn't care, she just says I'm a burden." She hesitated, struggling with her words. "My stepdad, he's always been hard on me." Emily exchanged a solemn look with Lucas, the seriousness of what Lila was implying clear. But they didn't want to pressure her too much. "I'm so sorry to hear that, Lila," Emily said gently, "but now, you and Leo are safe here, and no one will hurt you." Lila continued to stare at the floor, but a glimmer of relief crossed her eyes. She lifted her face to Emily and whispered, You promise?" Lucas leaned slightly, placing a hand on Lila's shoulder. "We promise, Lila. As long as you're with us, we will do everything to ensure that you both are protected." The girl finally relaxed a little, allowing herself to feel a flicker of safety. She reached out to gently touch Leo's head as he slept peacefully. Emily smiled at her, feeling that they had taken a first step toward the trust and hope that Lila so desperately needed. Nurse Tara returned to the room with a tray of tea and some cookies, setting them beside Lila. "I know you must be exhausted, dear. Why don't you have some tea?" Tara suggested gently. Lila looked at the cup, hesitant but eventually accepted. She brought the cup to her trembling hands, feeling the warmth of the tea ease some of the tension. Lucas approached again, keeping his tone soft but firm. "Lila, I know all of this must be scary, and we're trying to help in the best way possible. If you can tell us a little more, we can take care of you and Leo, perhaps even find someone from your family who might be worried about you." Lila flinched slightly at the words "family" and "worried." She glanced briefly at Lucas, her eyes filled with a mix of pain and disbelief. "My mom, she's not like you. She's always been closer to him, my stepdad. I just don't want to go back," Lila replied, her voice choked. Emily felt a tightness in her chest upon realizing the depth of the pain in those words. She sat beside Lila and in a soothing tone said, "Lila, you are very brave for being here. I know this must not have been easy, but we want you to know that we will take care of you and Leo, regardless of what happened before." Lila held Emily's gaze for a moment as if seeking final confirmation of her safety. She took a deep breath and whispered, "He always said it was a secret, that no one would believe me. I never thought I would have anywhere to go." Lucas exchanged a firm look with Emily, making it clear they needed to act cautiously and ensure the psychological and emotional support that Lila needed. He gently touched her hand, assuring her, "Lila, you are not alone anymore, and here, we all believe you." We will make sure that you both are okay. Finally, she took a deep breath and looked at Emily, still reluctant but with a bit more courage. Are you going to tell someone about us? Lila asked hesitantly, as if afraid of the answer. Emily leaned in and gently held her hand in a supportive gesture. Dear, our priority is to take care of you and Leo. We need to ensure that both of you are okay and protected. This means some professionals will help, but everyone will be here for you, do you understand? Lila swallowed hard and nodded slowly, processing the answer. Lucas leaned in, maintaining a comforting tone. Lila, we have a very kind social worker named Grace who will talk to you. She's great with kids and is here to listen to everything you want to share without any rush. If you feel you need some time, just say so, okay? Lila looked at both of them as if deciding to trust a little more. In a whisper, she confessed, I just wanted him to be okay. Leo, he's so small, and I promised I would take care of him. The sincerity in her voice moved Emily, who held Lila's hand more firmly. And you are keeping that promise with so much courage, Lila. But now, it's our turn to help you. A few moments later, social worker Grace entered the room with a warm smile and gentle gestures. She approached slowly, sitting beside Lila without rushing her. Hi, Lila, my name is Grace. I'm here to make sure you and Leo get all the help you need, okay? Lila watched her closely, still wary but visibly touched by Grace's kindness. The social worker continued, keeping her tone light. You've been very strong coming here. I know this must not have been easy. I'm here to listen to everything you want to share and to ensure that no one can hurt you and Leo again. Grace observed Lila's expression, respecting the time she needed to process each word. Slowly, she began to ask gentle questions in a soft voice, creating a safe and welcoming atmosphere. Lila, can you tell me a little bit about what it was like to take care of Leo by yourself? Lila hesitated, but her eyes shone with a mix of pride and sadness. I did everything to make sure he was okay. I gave him my blanket so he wouldn't be cold and stayed awake to make sure he was safe, she replied, her voice wavering. He needed me, and I didn't want to let him down. Grace and Emily exchanged glances, moved by the strength of such a young girl. The pain and responsibility that Lila carried revealed a precocious maturity forged by difficult circumstances. Grace continued gently. Lila, you did a wonderful job taking care of Leo. You were very brave and dedicated to him in such a beautiful way. Now, we want you to receive that same care, okay? Lila sighed, as if the weight of the world was lifting, at least a little. But she still seemed hesitant. But what if he doesn't stay with me? Are you going to separate me from him? Lila's voice sounded fragile, revealing her greatest fear. Grace moved closer, trying to comfort her. Lila, our goal is to keep you and Leo together and safe. We need to take some steps to ensure your safety, but we will do our best to respect the special bond you have. No one is going to take him away from you without a good reason, I promise. Lila nodded, still unsure but for the first time feeling that there was a chance for true protection. She clasped her hands in her lap, breathing more easily. At that moment, Leo began to stir in his crib, making small sounds that caught everyone's attention. Lila quickly leaned over him, gently stroking his head with evident tenderness. Emily smiled, seeing Lila's maternal instinct in action. It looks like he's hungry, Lila, Emily said, grabbing a bottle. Would you like to help feed him? Lila's eyes lit up at the sight of the bottle, and she eagerly nodded. It was as if, for a moment, the fear and sadness were replaced by simple happiness. Yes, please. I want to help. Emily placed the bottle in Lila's hands, guiding her carefully as she began to feed Leo. As Lila fed Leo with care, Grace stayed by her side, watching the deep bond between the two. It was clear that Leo was not just a baby to Lila, he was her reason to keep fighting. After a few minutes of silence, Grace spoke to the girl again, maintaining a comforting tone. Lila, I know you're doing everything for him, and that's something very beautiful. But tell me, did anyone know you were taking care of Leo? Did you have help at any point? Lila was silent for a moment, looking at Leo before answering in a low voice. No, he said no one could know. It was a secret. She paused, biting her lip in distress. But I knew he needed me, so I did what I could by myself. Grace and Emily exchanged worried looks. It was clear that Lila had lived in emotional and physical isolation, carrying a responsibility that no one her age should have. Still, she showed an uncommon strength. And you did an amazing job, Lila. Now, we want to make sure you and Leo never have to face this alone again, Grace said tenderly. I will arrange for you to have all the support you need. Lila blinked, processing the idea that for the first time, she wouldn't have to fight alone. There was a fragility in her gaze but also a glimmer of hope that had seemed non-existent before. You're really going to help us? Lila asked with a spark of uncertainty. Yes, dear, we will take care of both of you, Emily replied, placing a hand on Lila's shoulder. We are here to protect you, and it won't be a secret anymore. You deserve a life full of love and safety. At that moment, Nurse Tara returned to the room with some clean clothes for Lila and Leo, along with a soft, colorful blanket. She smiled, placing them beside the bed. I brought something to make you more comfortable. What do you think, Lila? Lila smiled shyly, looking at the new clothes and blanket. She stroked the colorful fabric, realizing that perhaps this new life everyone promised could really be different. Grace noticed this small sign of comfort and decided to proceed cautiously, keeping the welcoming tone. Lila, I know it has been very difficult for you to get here, Grace said, but we are so happy that you reached out to us. Now, we want to ensure that both you and Leo are okay. Lila nodded, taking a deep breath, and turned her attention to Leo, who was peacefully sleeping in her lap. She felt a mix of relief and fear, a sense that danger was still present somewhere distant but that somehow she had found shelter. I just want him to be safe, Lila whispered, her voice barely audible as if speaking to herself. Grace leaned in slightly, encouraging her with a reassuring smile. And he is, Lila, and you too. But for us to help you even more, we need to know a little more about what happened before you came here. Do you think you can tell us? Lila hesitated, holding Leo close to her chest, but the calmness in Grace's gaze seemed to finally dissolve her last barriers. After a long silence, she began to speak, her voice low and trembling. I was alone with him whenever my stepfather got angry. He would say I was a problem. I never wanted Leo to go through that. So when he was born, I knew I had to protect him, but I didn't know what to do. I just wanted him not to suffer. Emily and Grace exchanged a compassionate glance, and Grace, in a gentle tone, reaffirmed, you were very brave, Lila, and you did the best you could. No one should carry this weight alone, especially a girl like you. Now we want to give you the care and protection you've always deserved. At that moment, Dr. Lucas entered the room, bringing an expression of serenity and determination. Lila, I brought something special for Leo. He showed a small stuffed toy, a brown teddy bear with a red bow, which he handed to Lila. I think you would like to have something to keep him company. Lila's eyes lit up at the sight of the teddy bear, and a small smile formed on her face. She placed the teddy bear next to Leo, gently stroking the plush toy. Thank you so much, Lila murmured, letting out a sigh of relief. Grace, sitting next to Lila, noticed the calm that was taking over the girl, and taking advantage of that moment of serenity, asked gently, Lila, I would like to know if there is someone we can call for you, someone who cares about you and Leo. Maybe a family member or a friend. Lila hesitated, her expression hardening slightly at the thought. She shook her head slowly and replied in an almost resigned tone, "No, no one who really cares. I've always had to take care of myself." Grace nodded, respecting the response, understanding that this was a painful reality for Lila. Trying to offer some comfort, she said, "So you and Leo now have us. While you are here, you won't be alone anymore." Lila looked at Grace with eyes full of surprise and gratitude. It was a kind of support she had never experienced before, and although she was skeptical, it seemed she was starting to believe. "Thank you," Lila whispered, almost as if the words were difficult to say, the idea of thanking for care still new to her. At that moment, Emily returned to the room with a tray of hot soup and a glass of juice. "I brought something for you to eat, Lila. You must be starving after everything you've been through. How about having a little?" Lila smiled shyly, accepting the soup and holding the spoon carefully while Leo still slept peacefully beside her. With the first bite, her face showed a mix of relief and satisfaction. That soup was more than just a meal, it was a gesture of care that she hadn't received in a long time. As Lila ate, Grace and Emily watched in silence, offering the necessary support without haste. After a few minutes, Lila, still holding the spoon, finally asked, do you think that one day Leo and I will have a real home, a place where no one can hurt us?" Grace exchanged a glance with Emily, and both knew that the promise they would make at that moment would need to be fulfilled with dedication. "Yes, Lila, that is our goal," Grace replied, holding the girl's hand firmly. "We will work to ensure that you and Leo can have the home and safety you deserve." Lila finished the soup, feeling a comforting warmth that seemed to warm not only her body but also her heart. She was still holding Grace's hand when Leo stirred, slowly opening his eyes. Noticing that the baby had woken up, Lila quickly leaned over him, gently stroking his cheek. "Good morning, little one," Lila whispered with a soft smile. Grace and Emily watched the scene tenderly. It was evident that despite everything she had been through, Lila had a very strong protective and maternal instinct towards Leo. Dr. Lucas entered the room again with a gentle smile and a clipboard in hand. "Lila, now that you are both more at ease, I would like to do a quick checkup on you and Leo, just to ensure you are healthy. Is that okay with you?" Lila hesitated, casting a worried glance at Leo, but Grace reassured her with a gentle gesture. "Don't worry, dear. Lucas just wants to make sure you are both fine and not in pain. You can stay with Leo the whole time." Lila took a deep breath and nodded, allowing Dr. Lucas to begin the examinations. He was careful, explaining each step so she would feel secure. First, he examined Leo, checking his weight and verifying that he was hydrated and well-fed. The baby seemed healthy, to Lila's relief, as she watched closely. Then, Lucas turned to Lila, still using a calm and reassuring tone. "Let's just take a look at you now, okay? It won't take long, I promise." Lila, still a bit nervous, tried to relax as Lucas examined her gently. After a few minutes, he exchanged a meaningful glance with Grace and Emily, indicating that something in her health status required more attention. Lucas finished the examination and, putting the clipboard aside, said firmly, "Lila, it seems that you are a bit dehydrated and tired, but nothing that a good rest and proper nutrition can't fix. We will make sure you recover quickly." Lila let out a sigh of relief, but Lucas's expression showed concern beyond what he had said. He leaned in and, in the gentlest tone possible, asked a delicate question. "Lila, do you feel any pain that you may not have mentioned? You can tell us everything you're feeling, we are here to help." Lila lowered her eyes, clearly embarrassed, then replied with a trembling voice, "I feel a pain in my stomach, but it's not that bad. I'm used to it." Everyone's heart in the room tightened upon hearing that. Grace held her hand, conveying support and understanding. You don't have to bear that pain alone, Lila. Here, we will ensure that you and Leo receive everything you need, okay? Lila quickly wiped away a tear, trying to maintain her composure, but the emotional and physical exhaustion was finally becoming evident. Dr. Lucas and Grace understood that after so long facing everything alone, opening up to receive help was not easy. They exchanged understanding glances, thinking of the best way to offer Lila and Leo the support they needed. Lucas approached again and, in a firm but gentle tone, said, "Lila, we will arrange for you to have some more detailed tests. We just want to ensure that you are completely healthy, okay? I promise I will be by your side the whole time." Lila took a deep breath, seeming to gather the courage the situation required, and nodded. "That's fine, just don't take me away from Leo," she replied, looking at the baby with a glimmer of concern in her eyes. Grace smiled and placed her hand on Lila's shoulder. "Leo will be with you, dear. We'll arrange everything so you don't have to be separated." Carefully, Lucas helped Lila to stand up. The girl held Leo in her arms while Emily arranged for a wheelchair so she could move to the examination area without effort. The medical team did everything to ensure that Lila and Leo felt supported and comfortable as they headed to the examination room. Lila observed the hospital corridors with curious and slightly scared eyes. They passed by other patients and staff members, some of whom cast looks of compassion and surprise at seeing the young mother with her baby. Finally, upon arriving at the examination room, Lucas made sure Lila was comfortable with Leo in her arms. A nurse named Maya, with a kind demeanor, approached, explaining the process in a soothing voice. "I'm going to do some tests on you, dear. This won't take long, and I will be here the entire time. If you need anything, just call me." Lila nodded, trying to stay calm as Maya carried out the initial tests. Throughout the process, Lila kept her eyes on Leo, gently stroking his tiny hand as a way to find security. As the tests continued, Lucas and Grace, waiting outside, discussed the next steps. They both knew that Lila and Leo would need a safe environment and special support to deal with the trauma. After the tests, Maya gave Lila a gentle smile and said, "All done. We're finished now, you can rest a bit." Lila let out a sigh of relief, visibly exhausted but also more at ease. Lucas entered the room, accompanying the girl back to the ward where she could rest with Leo by her side. As she lay down on the bed, Lila looked at Grace and Lucas with genuine gratitude. "Thank you," she murmured, holding Leo as she slowly closed her eyes, allowing herself to be enveloped by a sense of security she had never experienced before. When she woke up, Grace and Emily were in the room talking quietly. Upon noticing that Lila was awake, Grace approached with a gentle smile. "Good morning, dear. Were you able to rest well?" she asked in a warm tone. Lila nodded, still a bit sleepy. She looked at Leo, who was sleeping peacefully, and felt a wave of relief seeing him right next to her. She was still getting used to the idea that she could trust these people. Emily brought a tray with a simple and nutritious breakfast. "I brought you something to eat. I know you must be starving," she said, placing the tray within Lila's reach. While Lila ate, Lucas entered the room carrying a folder with the test results. He sat down beside the girl and started the conversation carefully. "Lila, we reviewed the tests and want to ensure you are well in every way. Resting, eating well, and feeling safe are very important parts of your recovery." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "And that's why we would like to talk to you about what comes next for you and Leo." Lila stopped eating and looked at Lucas, her expression showing a mix of curiosity and apprehension. "What's going to happen now?" she asked, her voice hesitant. Grace moved closer, taking Lila's hand to provide reassurance. "We will talk to some people who can help find a safe home for you and Leo, a place where you can stay together and receive the necessary support. This may take some time, but I promise we will be with you every step of the way. Lila furrowed her brow, visibly worried. And what if nobody wants us, she whispered, revealing a deep fear. Emily responded firmly and kindly, you and Leo are precious, Lila. There are many good people who would love to have you in their lives, people who would do anything to take care of you. We will find one of those people, I promise. Those words seemed to ease Lila's heart a little. She let out a slight sigh, and her shoulders relaxed, though she was still visibly emotional. Lucas continued in the same gentle tone, Grace will help coordinate everything, and until we find that special place for you, you can count on all of us here at the hospital. You won't be alone. Lila nodded slowly, processing each word. For the first time, she felt that perhaps there was a possibility of a safe future for her and Leo. She held Grace's hand more tightly, letting out a small smile of hope. I want him to have a better life, Lila murmured, looking at Leo, a life where he never has to be afraid. Grace squeezed her hand, offering the comfort the girls so desperately needed. And we will do everything to ensure that, Lila. That afternoon, a new visitor arrived in the room. Grace had mentioned before that a special person would come to talk to Lila, someone who worked with children and knew how to help in delicate situations. When the door opened, a woman with a kind and calm expression entered. Hello, Lila, she said with a warm smile. My name is Olivia, and I am a child psychologist. I'm here to listen to you and help in any way I can. Is that okay? Lila looked at Olivia with a mix of curiosity and nervousness, but the comforting presence of the psychologist made her relax a little. Olivia sat down next to the bed, not too close so as not to intimidate her, but with a welcoming gaze that invited conversation. I know you have been very brave and strong taking care of Leo, Olivia began, keeping her tone gentle. And I know that this hasn't always been easy. I want you to know that I'm here to listen to you and understand what you've been through, but you only need to share what you feel comfortable sharing. Lila took a deep breath, looking at Leo before responding. She hesitated to trust strangers, but until that moment, everyone there had shown her a kindness she did not know. Finally, she found the courage to answer, I just want him to be safe. He is all I have. Olivia nodded, showing understanding. And we want the same for you both, Lila. We want to make sure you never have to face this alone again. After a brief silence, Olivia continued, now shifting to a light question so that Lila would feel at ease. Do you remember the moment you decided you needed to bring Leo to the hospital? Lila frowned, recalling the night everything changed. Her voice was low and hesitant, but she answered, I knew I couldn't take care of him alone, not anymore. I was scared, but I had to try. He couldn't stay in that place. Olivia looked at Lila with admiration, seeing the bravery that such a young girl was demonstrating. She was not only a protector for Leo but a child who had faced unimaginable situations. Lila, you have been very brave, and now that you are here, we want you to know that you are safe. This hospital is a safe place, and we will help find a home where you can grow in peace. After a while, as Olivia was saying goodbye with a reassuring smile, Grace stayed by Lila's side, keeping the environment welcoming. Lila, I wanted you to know that we now have a plan for what comes next, Grace said, taking a small clipboard. We found a foster family, people who are willing to take care of you and Leo together, offering the home you both deserve. Lila's eyes widened in surprise. The idea of a foster family seemed distant and surreal, but at the same time, it awakened something in her heart that she had never dared to admit, the desire to belong to a real home, a family. They really want us, she murmured, still incredulous. Grace nodded, smiling, yes, they do. It's a family with a lot of experience in caring for children, and they are eager to meet you and Leo. In fact, they suggested a visit here at the hospital so you can meet them before making any decisions. Lila seemed to absorb every word carefully, as if fearing it was all a dream. She looked at Leo, who was sleeping peacefully beside her, and then at Grace with a mix of hope and fear. What if they changed their minds? She asked in a whisper, almost inaudible. Grace leaned in, touching Lila's shoulder in a gesture of reassurance. Lila, I know it's hard to trust after everything you've been through, but these people are committed to providing a safe home for you both. Besides, I will be by your side throughout the process. I won't let anyone disappoint you again. Lila let out a sigh, as if releasing some of her fear. The idea of a home, of a family that would care for her and Leo was beginning to take root, even if timidly, and for the first time, she seemed open to the possibility of trusting. Okay, I would like to meet them, Lila said, her voice laden with contained hope. Grace smiled, pleased, and gently held Lila's hand. Then I will arrange everything for them to come tomorrow. You don't need to worry about anything, just rest and keep being the amazing person you are. The next morning, Lila woke up with a feeling of anxiety and anticipation. The idea of meeting a family that could welcome her and Leo was both exciting and frightening. Grace was by her side, helping her prepare for the meeting while Nurse Emily changed Leo's clothes and made him comfortable in his little crib. Today is an important day, Lila, Grace said with a reassuring smile. Remember that you don't have to make any decisions right now. This is just the first meeting, and we want you to feel comfortable. Lila nodded, trying to calm her own breathing. She looked at Leo, who seemed oblivious to everything, stretching his little hands as Emily played with him. A few minutes later, there was a gentle knock on the door, and a warm-looking woman accompanied by a kind-faced man entered the room. Grace introduced them as Maria and Ethan, the couple who were willing to welcome Lila and Leo. Maria was carrying a bouquet of flowers and a small teddy bear for Leo, while Ethan waved with a welcoming smile. Hello, Lila, Maria greeted, approaching slowly so as not to startle her. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. We've heard so much about your courage. Lila watched the two with a look of distrust mixed with curiosity. She noticed the way Maria and Ethan looked at each other with mutual understanding, and something in her began to relax, even if it was just a little. This is for Leo, Maria said, handing the teddy bear to Lila. We hope he likes it. Lila carefully took the teddy bear and looked at Leo, who smiled upon seeing the new toy. She shyly smiled at Maria and Ethan. Thank you, she said softly, holding the teddy bear close to Leo. Ethan stepped forward, maintaining a calm and comforting tone. Lila, we know you've been through a lot. We're not here to pressure you into anything. We want you and Leo to feel safe, and we'll do whatever it takes to ensure that. Grace watched everything closely, ready to intervene if Lila needed help, but surprisingly, the girl began to relax, feeling less intimidated by the couple's welcoming presence. I just want him to have a good life, Lila confessed, looking at Leo and then at Maria and Ethan. I would do anything for him. Maria knelt beside Lila, gently holding her hands. We want that too, Lila, and if you allow us, we'll be here to support both of you on this journey. You don't have to face everything alone. Maria's words seemed to resonate deeply with Lila, and she felt tears welling up in her eyes. For the first time, she felt she had found people who truly understood her desire to protect Leo. She looked at Grace, who nodded, encouraging her to give this new beginning a chance. I would like to try, Lila said, her voice choked but full of sincerity. I want him to have a family, and maybe we both can have one. After the meeting with Maria and Ethan, Lila seemed different, as if a small weight had been lifted from her shoulders. She watched Leo holding the teddy bear, smiling at the baby's simple joy with the new toy. Grace remained by her side, noticing the subtle transformation that the first step had caused. They are really kind, Lila murmured, still processing what she felt. I never thought anyone would want us both. Grace smiled, placing a gentle hand on Lila's shoulder. You deserve it, Lila. Both you and Leo deserve a home filled with love and safety. Maria and Ethan are ready to offer that to you, but the final decision is yours. Lila nodded, absorbing the words. It seemed surreal to think that after so many nights of fear and uncertainty, she could finally be close to having a life she had never dared to dream of. She took a deep breath, as if trying to absorb all of that new reality. The next morning, Maria and Ethan returned for another visit. This time, Maria brought a small bag with new clothes for Leo and some basic items for Lila, like a storybook she had specially chosen. I thought you might like to read a story to Leo if you want, Maria said, handing the book to Lila with a gentle smile. Lila held the book, turning it in her hands as if it were a precious treasure. The colorful cover and cheerful illustrations seemed inviting, like a promise of quiet moments she had never had. Thank you, Lila replied, her voice almost a whisper. I think you will like it. Ethan stepped closer, positioning himself next to Maria and smiled at Lila. Lila, we want you to know that we are here for whatever you need. We know this change is big, and we are ready to go at your pace. We want you and Leo to feel safe and comfortable without any rush. Lila watched them cautiously, but a part of her was beginning to open up to the idea of accepting help. For the first time, she could imagine a future where Leo had a safe childhood, away from all the fear she had faced herself. Leo let out a giggle while playing with the teddy bear, and Lila, smiling, realized that this new reality was slowly becoming more tangible. She looked at Maria and Ethan, feeling a mix of gratitude and hope, and finally said, I want to try, but I just need some time to trust, to believe this is real. Maria nodded, her eyes brimming with emotion. And we will give you as much time as you need, Lila. You and Leo are a family, and our home will always be open to you. In the following days, Lila and Leo received regular visits from Maria and Ethan, each with small gestures that showed the couple's care and patience. With each meeting, Lila felt more at ease, as if an invisible barrier was slowly dissolving. She noticed the care with which Maria looked at Leo and how Ethan always tried to make her smile, telling little stories from his own childhood or showing fun games. During one of those visits, Maria brought a special surprise, a simple but charming photo album. She opened the album and, turning the pages, showed pictures of their home. There was a room with large windows and natural light, a garden with colorful flowers, and a small outdoor area with toys. This is our home, Lila. If you and Leo come with us, this will be your space too. Maria gently ran her finger over a photo of a swing in the yard. I always loved that swing when I was little. I would spend hours there. Lila looked at each photo attentively, almost as if she were memorizing every detail. She wondered if she could really feel part of that place, if that scene of peace and safety would truly be for her and Leo. It looks peaceful, Lila commented with a slight smile. Leo would love to see the flowers, he loves colors. Ethan smiled, leaning in a little to speak directly to Lila. And you, what would you like to do there? We have many books, games, and we can plant new flowers in the garden together if you want. The proposal seemed so distant from Lila's reality that she was taken aback, unsure of how to respond. She had never imagined she could have time to simply be a child. She looked at Grace, who nodded, encouraging her to allow herself to imagine that new life. I think I would like to learn how to take care of the plants, she said, a bit embarrassed, and maybe read stories to Leo outside. Maria took Lila's hand with a look that conveyed deep understanding and affection. Then let's do it together. We love gardening, and Leo will have a place of his own to play outdoors, always close to you. Lila's heart filled with a new warmth, something she hadn't felt in a long time, hope. She looked at Leo, who was playing with the teddy bear Maria had given him, and felt that maybe, finally, she could allow herself to dream of a life where she wouldn't have to fight every day. "I would like to try," the words came from her lips in a firm tone, revealing the decision she had kept in her heart. "I want Leo to have a life like that, and maybe I can too." Ethan smiled, visibly moved, while Maria wiped away a tear that escaped her eyes. "We will take care of you, Lila. You are now part of our family." With Lila's decision to join Maria and Ethan, the hospital team began preparing for the transition. Every detail was thought out so that both she and Leo would feel safe and supported. Grace and Dr. Lucas organized a meeting with Maria, Ethan, and a social worker to discuss the next steps and ensure that the process would be as comfortable as possible for Lila. On the day of departure, the hospital was filled with emotions. Nurses and doctors who had known Lila and Leo's story passed by the room to say goodbye, leaving small tokens and words of encouragement. Nurse Emily gave Leo a soft blanket with colorful embroidery, and Lila held it tenderly, knowing it would be a piece of everyone who had cared for her. Maria and Ethan arrived with a spacious and comfortable car where they prepared a seat for Leo and a cozy blanket for Lila. As they approached the hospital exit, Lila began to feel a mix of anxiety and anticipation. It was hard to believe that she and Leo were leaving for a new life, a life she had never dared to dream of before. Grace, always by her side, held her hand one last time before the goodbye. "Lila, this is your new journey, and you have every right to be happy. Know that everyone here is rooting for you and Leo, and we will always be nearby if you need us." Lila hugged her, feeling the security and affection Grace had always offered from the beginning. Although anxious, she also felt a renewed strength, a sense that with the right support, she could face whatever lay ahead. Finally, Maria approached and smiled. "Shall we go home, Lila?" Lila looked at Leo, who was peacefully sleeping in Ethan's lap, and nodded with a shy and sincere smile. "Yes, I think we are ready." On the way, Maria and Ethan made sure the trip was smooth. They talked softly, sharing little stories and asking Lila what she liked to do most. Lila responded with few words, still absorbing the reality around her, but gradually she relaxed, enjoying the simplicity of the conversation. When they arrived at the house, Maria guided Lila and Leo through the place that would now be their new home. Lila admired the details, the colorful garden, the windows that let in light abundantly, and the swing Maria had mentioned. She looked at the space with curious eyes, and a spark of hope grew in her heart. Leo woke up, looking around with a baby's curiosity, and smiled, and Maria placed the little teddy bear in his hands. Lila, touched by the care she felt around her, took a deep breath, letting the feeling of security seep into her soul. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe that this could really be the home she had longed for both Leo and herself. Maria took Lila's hand gently. "This is our home, and now it is yours too. Let's build this new story together, one day at a time." Lila looked at Maria and Ethan, feeling a connection she had never experienced before, and with a slight smile, she whispered, "Thank you for everything." And with those words, Lila took the first step into her new life, a life where finally she could dream of peace and happiness. In the days that followed Lila and Leo's arrival at their new home, a simple and welcoming routine began to form. Maria and Ethan were patient and attentive, allowing Lila to adapt at her own pace. Every morning, Maria invited her to help in the garden, where they took care of the flowers and plants that Lila was beginning to learn to cultivate. Ethan, on the other hand, liked to include Leo in small activities, carrying him around while he did tasks around the house, allowing Lila to watch, feeling more and more secure and at ease. On a sunny morning, while Maria and Lila were planting some sunflower seeds, Maria took the opportunity to talk about the future. "Lila, I thought of something you might like," Maria said, wiping her hands on the dirt. "If you want, we can set up a little corner in the garden just for you. You can plant whatever you want, and it will be your special space." Lila lifted her face, surprised, and smiled shyly. "I've never had anything just for me before," she murmured, looking at the spot Maria was pointing to in the garden. "It would be beautiful." Maria nodded, happy to see the sparkle in Lila's eyes. That small gesture was more than just a space in the garden, it was a way to give the girl the assurance that she was in a place where she could grow and flourish, just like those plants. That night, after Leo fell asleep, Lila found Ethan in the living room flipping through an old photo album. He looked up and smiled upon seeing her. "Lila, I thought you might like to see some pictures from when I was a child," he said, pushing the album closer to her. "It may seem silly, but for me, photos are memories that help keep alive the memory of the people I love." Lila carefully flipped through the album, absorbing each image of Ethan with his family during carefree moments. Those images seemed almost magical to her, as if they belonged to a distant, ideal world. After a while, she looked at Ethan, hesitating before speaking. "I wish I had photos like this with Leo." Ethan nodded, understanding the weight of that desire. "We can start creating those memories now, Lila. This is the beginning of a new story for you and Leo, and it will be filled with moments like these. How about we start tomorrow with a picture of the two of you in the garden?" Lila smiled, touched by the simplicity and meaning of that idea. For the first time, she felt she had the freedom to imagine a future with happy invisible memories like Ethan's photos. The next morning, while Leo played with the teddy bear he had received from Maria, Lila held him in her arms in the garden, and Ethan took their first picture together. Lila's smile, natural and sincere, showed that she was starting to allow herself to feel the peace and happiness that had previously seemed distant. The photo would be just the beginning of a special album, an album that would mark the rebirth of Lila and Leo's lives, now in a home where love and security surrounded them. On a Saturday afternoon, while Leo took a nap, Maria suggested something special. "Lila, how about we go for a walk? There's a park nearby that I think you both would love. We can take Leo to see the ducks at the pond, he will adore it." Lila looked at Maria with a mix of surprise and excitement. The invitation sounded simple, but for her, it was a sign that she was finally getting the chance to experience a childhood she had never known. She nodded, and together they prepared for the outing. Upon arriving at the park, Maria picked up Leo while Ethan walked with Lila to the pond where the ducks swam peacefully. Lila observed everything around her with fascination: the laughter of children, the sunlight reflecting on the water, the smell of the trees. It was as if she was seeing the world in a new way, finally free from the weight of fear and insecurity. "Lila," Ethan began, noticing the shy smile on her face, "this kind of moment belongs to you and Leo now. You deserve these memories." Lila took a deep breath, absorbing every word. She looked at Leo, who was curiously observing everything around him, and felt a wave of genuine happiness. During the outing, Maria took some pictures of Lila and Leo, capturing their smiles and the sparkle of discovery in both of their eyes. As they returned home, Maria made a promise. "Let's start an album, Lila. Every new adventure will be recorded, and one day when you look at it, you will have memories of this beginning that is just for you." Lila smiled and held Maria's hand, feeling deep gratitude. Deep down, she knew that this album would be the testament to a new story, a story where she and Leo could finally be happy. When they got home, Lila put Leo to sleep and went to the bedroom window, looking out at the garden illuminated by the sunset. She felt a calm she had never felt before. She knew the road would still be long, but for the first time, she had hope for the future, trust in the people around her, and above all, the certainty that alongside Maria and Ethan, she had found the family she so desperately needed. The days passed peacefully, each bringing a new discovery for Lila and Leo. Gradually, Lila felt more secure, and even her posture and smile began to change. She was experiencing for the first time a feeling of lightness, as if the weight she had been carrying in her heart was slowly dissolving. One afternoon, while Maria and Lila were preparing dinner together in the kitchen, Maria decided to share something she had been observing with care. "Lila, I have seen how thoughtful and attentive you are with Leo. He is a lucky baby to have such a dedicated sister." Lila, surprised by the compliment, stopped what she was doing and looked at Maria, feeling a mix of shyness and pride. "I just want him to grow up without fear, to have everything I didn't have," she replied softly but with conviction. Maria smiled and placed her hand over Lila's, conveying security. "And you are succeeding, dear, but we also want you to have that," Maria said, looking at her tenderly. "You deserve to be a child, to play, to explore, to learn. You also deserve the chance to build your own dreams." Lila reflected on those words as they continued cooking. She had never imagined that someone would care so much about her dreams as she herself cared about Leo's future. For the first time, she allowed herself to think of a future where she could learn, grow, and build a life. Later, while Leo played with his toys, Ethan entered the room with a box of games. "Lila, I thought you might like these games. I used to play with them when I was a child, and I thought we could play together if you want." Lila's eyes lit up. It was rare for her to have the chance to simply have fun without responsibilities or fears. She looked at Leo, who was observing everything with curiosity, and then at Ethan, feeling enveloped by that sense of normalcy that she had never experienced before. "I would love to," she replied, smiling. That night, the house echoed with laughter and casual conversations. Lila, Leo, Maria, and Ethan were all gathered around the games, and the joy they shared seemed to light up every corner of the home. Amid laughter and small victories in the games, Lila finally felt that she belonged somewhere. Later, when she lay down in bed, she thought about everything she had experienced since arriving there. That house was now more than just a place to live, it was a home where she could dream, be a child, and at the same time protect Leo in the way she had always wanted. And with that thought, she fell asleep, knowing that tomorrow would bring more adventures and, above all, more moments of happiness and love. This continues the story with additional details and moments to meet the required word count, keeping the essence and content of the original narrative intact.